the cancelled Thorpe Park Hotel all the way back into 2006. It was going to be built on the Cemex site. These plans could easily come back. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. I hope you guys are all well. Today I'm going to be doing something that I touched upon a few weeks ago in a different video, which was the Future of Thorpe Park video that I did, and that is the cancelled Thorpe Park Hotel. So in today's video I'm going to take a good in-depth look at the kind of history of this hotel. But if you do go on to enjoy the video, make sure to like and subscribe. Obviously, if you don't want to, you don't have to. I can't force you to do anything you don't want to do, but if you are interested in weekly theme park videos, then this is definitely the place for you. So without further ado, I think it's time to get stuck in. So I guess a good place to start would probably be the beginning, and that beginning actually takes place all the way back into 2006, which actually quite surprised me that Thorpe Park were really looking at building a permanent hotel this far back. And in 2006, Thorpe Park essentially outlined plans for a hotel that was going to be built on the Cemex site, which is kind of what outskirts the island itself. Obviously across the river there is a Cemex building that kind of acts as the headquarters for Cemex in Thorpe, and Thorpe Park were actually planning on building the hotel here, but a little bit of a discussion on the location. Like I said just then, it is basically on the outskirts of Thorpe Park, so it's not actually on the island, which is a really interesting place to build a hotel, obviously because there's a very fantastic view. But yeah, it is still really interesting that back in 2006 this was in the pipeline, and it kind of makes it even more surreal that, you know, they still haven't built a permanent solution to this day. This has been going on for decades at this point nearly. So to be fair, because there isn't a lot of information on the 2006 bit, there's obviously not a lot to go into here, but it clearly shows that this is something Thorpe Park has always thought about, and it's definitely something they are probably still thinking about to this day. But the story doesn't end there. It gets a little bit more interesting a good few years down the line. And the most interesting thing, I think, is that they really stuck with this plan of building on the Cemex site, and you'll see that in some of the later plans in just a second, and that kind of helps us swiftly move on to 2013. So 2013 was a really interesting year for Thorpe Park. Obviously this was the year after the Swarm had opened, so I believe Brave It Backwards was operating at this point in time, but however, a little bit more interestingly, this was actually the year that the Crash Pad opened. Now if you don't know what the Crash Pad is, this was basically a temporary hotel that was built in partnership with Snoozebox, and Thorpe Park built this to kind of accommodate to the people that wanted to stay overnight at Thorpe Park, because at this point there was a lot of different hotels at some of the other Merlin attractions. However, this temporary kind of accommodation was very successful for Thorpe Park, as this is still here to this day. You may be thinking, I haven't heard anything known as the Crash Pad. Well, that is because in 2014 Thorpe Park gained control of the Crash Pad Hotel and morphed it kind of into the Thorpe Shark Cabins, which obviously is still there today. But also what was happening at this point was that the Cemex site was kind of graded as a grade 2 listing. Now what this means is there are a lot of restrictions on where things can be built and what things can be built within this site. Now it mainly kind of details the fact that you can't demolish any architectural features, so things like fireplaces and all this sort of thing. You can't demolish it, essentially. You can't just flatten it out. So realistically, if we look at it kind of logically, Thorpe Park were probably planning on kind of morphing the hotel around the kind of built building that was there. But obviously Thorpe Park are very much, you know, in control here, and they had no plans on stopping anytime soon. Okay, so then came the exciting part. In May of 2014, Thorpe Park submitted official plans to the Runnymede Council for a 250 room Waterside Hotel. Now this is obviously a pretty big deal. 250 rooms is a lot. This would have been roughly about the same size as the Alton Towers Hotel, I believe. However, that wasn't it. They kind of also detailed the fact that this was going to be a two-phase plan. So phase 1 was going to be the initial 250 rooms. It would have featured a play area and some other guest facilities that you would expect at a hotel. But the more kind of exciting thing about these features that were going to be included in the hotel was a jetty link. You were actually going to be able to get transportation across the river to the entrance of Thorpe Park, which would have been absolutely incredible, and I really hope they keep that idea if they do plan on doing a hotel in the future. However, the second phase was just a further extension of some of the guest facilities and an extra 100 rooms, and obviously that's kind of where the plans end. However, we do have a lot more that is detailed here than in the 2006 plans, obviously because this is a lot more recent. We actually kind of have a timeline of when they were going to start building this thing. So in 2016 it was going to start construction, and around about 2018 it was planning on opening. So if we look at the kind of timeline here, they were going to be building it around about when Darren Brown's Ghost Train opened, and then it would have opened when, you know, the Walking Dead ride opened in 2018. Whether or not the Walking Dead ride would still go ahead at this point, obviously because of budgetary reasons, you know, is completely up in the air. We don't know really what they were planning at this point, but obviously, as we all know, this didn't go ahead again. Like you can see up on the screen here, there is obviously quite a bit of, you know, planning documents that were included in this proposal. You can obviously see here that we don't really know specifically what the theme of the hotel was going to be, but it does look like they were kind of going for more of a modern approach, kind of how Alton Towers approached the building of the Alton Towers Hotel, where it's kind of, you know, architecturally quite modern and stuff, and all the kind of exciting theming stuff happens on the inside. Obviously, they easily could have completely switched this up and gone a different route. These are only just initial plans, but it's really cool to see this. Like, these are really kind of interesting documents, but it just goes to show that, you know, planning documents can be released for something, it can be detailed, they can have a roadmap, and it still not happen. You know, a lot of times, especially when Hyperion was being built and that was kind of having its difficulties with the planning stage, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, they've released the plans now, you know, there's no way it's not going ahead. But, you know, things can happen, things might not go ahead. Whether or not the reasoning behind them not building this hotel was because of Darren Brown's Ghost Train, obviously at this point in 2014 they were probably thinking about building the dark ride, and obviously we know how expensive that costs to make, so they may have kind of taken it back a little bit, gone, right, well, this is going to be very expensive, so why don't we sideline the hotel for now and kind of leave it be, which is what I'm hoping has happened, because essentially we could see these plans return. At the end of the day, these planning documents are here, the ideas are there. You know, Thorpe Park had a rough couple of years with COVID, much like, you know, everyone on the planet did. So, you know, it's one of those things where they wanted to get Hyperia out to kind of recuperate a lot of costs that were lost from the Ghost Train as well as through COVID. So they may have even just focused on that again. So it could very well be that the next big project we see at Thorpe Park is a hotel. You know, it could just come out of nowhere. And it is something that I do think has a lot of value. There's no doubt in my mind that Thorpe Park are thinking about this, because, you know, it is something that definitely needs to happen eventually. But obviously their priorities are going to be their priorities, and they will lay them out how they see fit. And I trust them with that. At the end of the day, would I rather Hyperia or a hotel? I'd rather Hyperia every single day of the week, if I'm being honest. So I don't think that Thorpe Park are doing this to kind of just purposefully stop a hotel from being built. I think they're doing it as a strategic move so that they can kind of focus on other things and then maybe move back over to it when the time is necessary. So yeah, all we can really do is hope at this point that something will happen eventually, but at the end of the day, you know, it's not the end of the world. But yeah, that is kind of the entire history of this hotel. Like I said, this history may not even be over. We could be living the history right now. These plans could easily come back. But it is really interesting taking a look back at these plans, because this was something that would have felt very real at the time. And, you know, it's just interesting to see things that were never built. What could have been? You know, it's an interesting subject to kind of look at. But yeah, if you did go on to enjoy the video, like I said at the beginning, make sure to like and subscribe. I've got some really cool videos coming out over the next week that I'm really going to try and crack down and film and get edited and get sent out. So if that does interest you and you're an enthusiast, or even if you're not and you're just interested in the industry, you know, as a whole, definitely hit the subscribe button. It really helps me out, and I appreciate everyone who supported me so far. You mean the world to me. So yeah, without further ado guys, that's going to do it for today, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya.